They say good things happen to those who wait, and in fantasy football, it's the same, right? You may be there on draft day, on the clock in the later rounds, and find yourself a perfect late round stash.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there today. We're talking about a few guys that you can find later in your fantasy football drafts here in 2022 that could definitely outperform their ADP and give your team the added depth that you need to make a run here this season. I got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 or 7 guys we're going to be talking about in this episode right here. So do me a favor, hit that like button. But here's why you want to hit the like button. Now, I got to get something off my chest. It's been brought to my attention that earlier in the week, Kyle made a video about running back efficiency. It has Nick Chubb on the thumbnail. I'll throw it up here so you know which one I'm talking about. But in that video, he asked the people and told them, if this video can get 1,000 likes, he'll give away my Nick Chubb jersey. Like, it's my jersey. Like, he offered my jersey for his video to get 1,000 likes. So now, today's my turn to make a video, and you better believe 2 can play at this game. Now, Kyle is probably expecting this, right? He's probably watching this going, okay, Jake's going to give away one of my jerseys in the background as payback. I'm going bigger because I can and I want to. So this is what we're going to do, because I know if I look directly into this camera and ask the people to hit that like button, if we can get 1,000 likes, I'm going to give away Kyle's YouTube plaque. If they send us the plaque for 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to make him autograph that bad boy. Then I'm going to sign it when I'm with him at the Fantasy Football Expo in Ohio, and we're going to ship it to somebody. So hit that like button if you want to see Kyle lose his YouTube plaque. He's not expecting this. He's probably expecting like the Mixon jersey or something. No. We're going for the big dog. We're giving away the YouTube plaque. So yeah, do me a favor, hit that like button. But now let's get into the content here for the day. The first name we want to talk about, he's gonna flip out. He's not gonna enjoy that. But anyway, the first person we're gonna talk about here today is a newly moved free agent. Let's talk about Christian Kirk. And really, Christian Kirk's pretty intriguing, right? I mean, you look at the volume that he could potentially have, and right now, consensus rankings have him at the 113th overall player, sitting at wide receiver 43 in drafts. At this point, we're just looking for opportunity, right? If we can find opportunity in volume in the double-digit rounds, especially at the wide receiver position, it really bolsters your overall roster construction. Well, the Jags have targets available, over 100 vacated targets from 2021, and they just brought in Christian Kirk and paid him a crap load of money. Overpaying Christian Kirk. That's what started this run on crazy wide receiver contracts. But everybody blamed Christian Kirk and the Jacksonville Jaguars for that huge deal. But who is he competing with on that roster? You got Zay Jones. You got Marvin Jones Jr., Laviska Shenault. Not a lot, right? There's a pretty clear path to targets for a highly paid wide receiver in this offense. Plus, it's the Jaguars. They're going to be losing and throwing the ball a lot here once again. Christian Kirk, a wide receiver who's seen some volume before, right? He's had over 100 targets in 2 out of his last 3 years played, and just last year, finished wide receiver 24 overall in half PPR scoring. Now, in that season, he took 406 snaps from the slot, 13th most amongst all wide receivers in the NFL, and he finished 12th in total route wins. So the guy is able to win on his route, and if they're throwing the ball a lot, and he can get some targets, some quality targets from Trevor Lawrence, he could be in line for some decent volume, some decent production. Now, he did have 2 fairly big issues that I want to talk about. I'm not going to completely just ignore them here. I talked about quality targets here just a second ago. Now, going from Kyler Murray to Trevor Lawrence, from what we saw last season from Trevor Lawrence, is going to be a huge downgrade for Christian Kirk. Does that not mean that Trevor Lawrence can improve, take a step forward this year? 100% he can. I kind of expect him to a little bit. But is he going to get up there to the quality target level of a Kyler Murray right away? It's a lot of speculation, right? So we need that to happen in order to get some quality targets. Plus, health is not exactly, a staple here of Christian Kirk. The guy gets hurt a lot. He's banged up a lot. He misses a few games every single season for the most part. He's definitely somebody who's not overly durable. but the potential is there. And at this point of the draft, it's a super cheap price to end up with a wide receiver that could see over 100+ targets. So now let's move on to the next guy here. Let's talk about DeVante Parker. Now, right now, consensus rankings have him as the 140th overall player, sitting at wide receiver 52. Wide receiver 52 overall is absolutely crazy. Now, I used to call this dude fantasy Bigfoot because one week he was there, you'd pay attention to him, and then he's gone. He would just disappear. But he's not all that bad, right? And now he has a path to maybe some more consistent targets. He really broke out in 2019 where he had 128 targets, 72 receptions, 1,202 yards, and 9 touchdowns, finishing as wide receiver 7 overall. But now Parker goes to a better overall situation, and people just really want to forget about the guy. And I really don't understand why? Like, why did his situation get better, yet he's wide receiver 52 overall? Do you remember the time when anytime a wide receiver would go to New England, they were like the most overhyped piece of gold ever? Now, yes, I understand the Tom Brady effect was in full force back then, but there was going to be a struggle getting volume in Miami with all the receivers they have. Now he's the clear number 1, in my opinion, in New England, in which he's only competing with Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, newly drafted Tyquan Thornton. I mean, the path to volume isn't going to be crazy here in New England. The Patriots didn't win a regular season game, though, when Mac Jones threw for over 36 pass attempts. So that's something to pay attention to, right? Because they're not a overly high-powered passing offense, but they could be very efficient targets going the way of DeVante Parker. Are we going to go out there and expect 12 targets a week? No. Can we expect right in the neighborhood of 8 to 10? Absolutely. And at wide receiver 52, in an offense that could use some more playmakers, some big-bodied wide receivers, I don't hate DeVante Parker whatsoever. Now, Mac Jones can get him the ball, right? That's really not up for debate. Mac Jones surprised a lot of people last year, and he's not a horrible quarterback, but I think a lot of times he's kind of confused with one of those quarterbacks that just dinks it and dunks it down the field because he's not throwing the ball a lot. But that is not the case. Mac Jones was 10th overall in the NFL among all quarterbacks in total air yards. He's throwing the ball down the field. And when you have a wide receiver like DeVante Parker that can go win those contested catches deep down the field, all of a sudden, this match together isn't all that bad. He finished top 10 in completion percentage versus man and zone in 2021 as well. Mac Jones, very underrated, in my opinion, as a quarterback here in the NFL. Now, the number 1 in New England as possibly your wide receiver 4 or 5, yeah, 100%. I'll take that risk every day. DeVante Parker, seriously undervalued as of right now. How about, who's next here? Let's go to Russell Gage. Let's go to Russell Gage. Consensus ranks has him right now as the 129th overall player, sitting at wide receiver 49. Now, another huge improvement in situation here as well, right? A lot of people just seem to look at Russell Gage and they're like, pass. But now Russell Gage has the opportunity that maybe we saw of an Antonio Brown last season who's no longer in Tampa Bay. Now, did I just say that Russell Gage is as good as Antonio Brown? No, I did not. But at least we can kind of expect Russell Gage to be there and playing on Sundays, right? Now, he's not going to go in this offense and just absolutely feast, right? But he's going to be in the slot, and now he has Tom Brady throwing him the football. The opportunity is going to be there, but this is what I want to look out closely here. It's Chris Godwin. Now, don't forget, Chris Godwin's coming off of an ACL tear and may start the season a little bit slow. And technically, at the time of this recording, Gronk is not back in Tampa Bay either. Russell Gage could start the year as the number 2 pass-catching option in Tampa Bay, getting the ball from Tom Brady, and you could get him at wide receiver 49. In my opinion, that's just worth a flyer, and that's something that I wouldn't be opposed to later in drafts whatsoever. Now, Gage has had at least 90 targets, 60 receptions, 750 yards receiving, now in back-to-back years in Atlanta. I think we can all agree here that the situation in Tampa Bay this year is going to be better than what it was in Atlanta the past couple years. Little to no risk at this point of the draft. Russell Gage, definitely somebody I'm paying attention to late. How about a tight end? A tight end, the football kind. Consensusly ranked 155th overall and currently tight end 22, Irv Smith Jr. from the Minnesota Vikings. I think I feel like my body is ready once again for Irv Smith Jr. I was super pumped for Irv Smith last year, ended up missing the season due to a meniscus injury, and now he's sitting at tight end 22. If this guy stays on the field and he can play 14 to 15 games this season, he is a lock to be a top 10 tight end in fantasy football. Now, like I said, he's coming off that meniscus injury, and it is 2021 season, but he should be good to go in 2022. The Vikings seem to feel pretty good about it, right? They let last year's tight end one on their roster, Tyler Conklin, leave in free agency, and now Irv has a clear path to targets in a passing game in which we kind of expect to be fairly high-powered once again here. Now, don't let a year off in 2021 cause you to forget how explosive Irv Smith Jr. actually is. We got a glimpse of that kind of back in 2020, but we still had to worry about splitting targets with Kyle Rudolph and Tyler Conklin back then. At tight end 22, steal. Tight end 22 last year only had 84 half PPR fantasy points. Ask yourself this question. Is it totally mind-blowing to see Irv Smith Jr. go out there and get 50 catches for 500 yards and 2 touchdowns? Because that's all he'd need to surpass tight end 22. It would not surprise me if we see this guy somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 receptions, 700 yards, and right around 5 to 8 touchdowns, which could definitely put him in that conversation for top 10, top 12 at the position. Just don't forget about Irv Smith. If you find yourself punting tight end, grabbing 2 guys late, Irv Smith is definitely a name to pay attention to. How about, okay, now it's getting interesting. We got 3 rookies to end the show. 3 rookies that you can get late and take a stab at. First one, David Bell of the Cleveland Browns, consensusly ranked 228th overall. Wide receiver, 82. In other words, undrafted in most fantasy leagues. Now, some of you may even be going, who the hell is David Bell? Like,
who the f*** is that guy?
Exactly. Well, David Bell is a 3rd-round wide receiver that Cleveland just took in the draft. He is a route-running technician, and he knows how to get open and find the open areas of a football field and just rack up receptions. And now he's on a team that really needs pass-catching weapons. Bell is in line as of right now to be the starting slot wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. Now, we all know Deshaun Watson likes his slot wide receivers. Do you remember the names back in the days of maybe a Kiki D You Love Me, Kiki QT, Randall Cobb? He likes those guys short across the middle. Now, hopefully, we need to wait and find out what's going on with the Deshaun Watson situation and how that plays into the NFL season here this year. But at the time of this recording, could see some heavy volume going the way of one David Bell. It really helped also that Cleveland didn't sign anybody else, right? There were rumors out there they could bring back Jarvis Landry. You know, who else were they really looking at? Nobody, right? We got to worry about Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz. I mean, Amari Cooper going to need to have some help out there, right? And David Bell could definitely be that guy and rack up some receptions. And at wide receiver 82, a wide receiver that's going to have an immediate target share at that point, yeah, hands down, no-brainer. And now we're going to end it with a couple running backs here. The first one, Isaiah Spiller of the Los Angeles Chargers, right now consensusly ranked 136th overall, running back 49. And the Chargers for years have been trying to find that 1-2 punch to go along with Austin Eckler since they've lost Melvin Gordon. We've tried Justin Jackson. We've tried Joshua Kelly. We've tried Larry Roundtree. None of them really took the ball and ran with it, figuratively or literally. Spiller, though, he could definitely be this guy in this offense right here. Now, before you freak out and say, no, Jake, we need Austin Eckler to get all this work. No, he really doesn't. He's super efficient, and even last year, the other running backs on the roster for the Los Angeles Chargers accounted for 137 carries and 33 targets overall. Does that mean that Isaiah Spiller gets all that volume? No. But he's probably going to get a bulk of it. And at this point, not only do you end up with a solid handcuff for an elite running back in fantasy football, you gain a guy who's still going to have potential on a weekly basis, plus kind of just give you that added depth and really give you that peace of mind that if something were to happen to Austin Eckler, you have a 3-down capable back in Los Angeles with Isaiah Spiller, who still has great hands, can catch the football out of the backfield, and be a solid fantasy option for you here today. Plus, they want to keep Eckler fresh, right? He's kind of dealt with injuries off and on the last couple years. If they can just keep him fresher, you know he's still going to be the bulk of the backfield there in Los Angeles. But man, if anything were to happen to Austin Eckler, Isaiah Spiller could be a steal in drafts at running back 49. What about Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Right now, he is consensusly ranked 196th overall, sitting at running back 61. Now, I kind of added him late to this show because we're starting to get a lot of questions about Rachaad White, and I really don't want to overhype this guy too much. And really the only reason I want to make sure I included him is because it's come out here recently that the Bucs could utilize him in the passing game a little bit, kind of spell Leonard Fournette at times. Now, obviously, this is still playoff regular season Lenny's backfield for the most part, but Rachaad White is another one of these guys that is 3-down capable, great hands out of the backfield, strong runner, that if anything happens to Leonard Fournette, who in the past has had some injury concerns, you're looking at another guy in a high-powered offense that could get a fairly large role. And then you add in on top of that he's actually catching some of these passes out of the backfield from Tom Brady in one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL. Now, why am I not overly hyping Rachaad White? Why am I not overly excited about it? Here's why. They still technically have Gio Bernard and Keyshawn Vaughn on this roster. Are they going to be in the mix? It would not surprise me if they are, at least early in the season. So for me, to draft Rachaad White, end of drafts, cool. As long as you have zero thought process of actually utilizing this guy for the first few weeks, maybe you're fine. He may be a guy that you just really monitor closely on the waiver wire, but if anything happens to Leonard Fournette, the guy's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get off of the waiver wire. I do expect him to get some volume. I do expect him to get some touches, but in this offense, if Leonard Fournette is 100% healthy, he is going to be the guy in the backfield there with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We need some things to happen for Rachaad White to really get consistent volume. A little bit different than what we saw with Isaiah Spiller, right? Spiller's still going to get some work week in and week out. Rachaad White may not be the case unless there's a huge lead in Tampa Bay. Just something to pay attention to. Like I said, I love the potential, but I'm not going to overhype him here this early in the offseason. But these are definitely a few guys that you need to pay close attention to this offseason. I don't know if I really expect any of their ADPs to skyrocket, right? Yeah, sure, they may climb a little bit, but these guys are so late in drafts, more than likely, they're probably going to be there even come August, unless there's some injuries ahead of them on the depth chart that really boost them up a little bit quicker for at least some of these guys. So definitely pencil these guys down. They're names to remember as you head into the offseason. Pay close attention to, write them down on your draft strategy sheet, whatever it is that you have. These are some names just to keep in the back of your mind here for the coming weeks, the coming months, and hopefully they can provide us some great value here in 2022 fantasy football. But like usual, I want to make sure I know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I'm trying to respond to as many comments as I can here personally this offseason. So do me a favor, leave that comment down below. Let me know what you think about the names here. And if you see anybody else as kind of a late round stash in 2022, don't forget though, we got to get the 1,000 likes. I want to give away Kyle's plaque. I'm not even going to tell him. I'm just going to wait for somebody to tell him in the comment section or somewhere. He's probably not going to be too happy. That plaque is pretty special. Can I get him another one? Probably. They're pretty expensive, but I want to make him sweat it out a little bit. So hit that like button. Do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do so. We have all kinds of football content coming up, and you better believe we're going to have fun with it all year long. Looking forward to doing it along here with you guys, the community. But for now, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll talk to you later.